Hey everyone, happy February. My name is Claire McLean. I'm a physical therapist, and I am recording the video for our research highlight for the month. We have been recording highlights, sharing some of our favorite research for almost a year now. And I'm kind of doing a series on some of my favorite exercise studies because that is one of our main focuses. We want to help people exercise well, do things that they enjoy, challenge themselves to do more, and to really take what the research says and help people implement that in the real world. There tends to be a lag in research being published and then that being adopted in the real world by people. So we are trying to help that happen faster. So the article that I want to talk about today, I'm going to share it, is titled Motor Cognitive Approach and Aerobic Training, a Synergism for Rehabilitative Intervention for Parkinson's Disease. This was written by a group of authors from Italy and New York. It's a really great article. I will check. I believe it is available free full text. I will post a link to the article, and at minimum, the abstract will be available. Hopefully, the free full text will be available. If not, you are able to contact author for correspondence is Dr. Ferrazzoli, David Ferrazzoli at gmail.com. You can email him to get a copy of the article or let me know if you're having any trouble getting access. I find in many cases the abstract or any practice points that are written are helpful. Oh, I want to say also, this is an article that is more of a review looking at a body of research, not a randomized controlled study. So they're looking at a number of different articles and forming an opinion on what all of that means. This article was published in 2020. So it's not super recent, but it's also was not published a long time ago by any means. So the practice points that they make is that Parkinson's disease is not a mere movement disorder. Although motor symptoms are one of the main things that are used in diagnosis, it is actually a complex motor behavior disease responsible for tremendous social and economic impact. The optimal management of Parkinson's should involve integrated multidisciplinary approaches combining both pharmacotherapy and non-pharmacological interventions such as rehabilitation. Bottom-up and top-down cognitive coping strategies and adaptive techniques are useful for achieving motor benefits in patients with Parkinson's. That may be, really using your cognition. If someone has a symptom of freezing of gait, understanding that if I count or take big steps or use certain cues, that is really using your cognition to overcome this symptom. So that is a coping strategy and a helpful adaptive technique. But really, our goal with exercise would be to make it so that someone doesn't have to think about that adaptation all the time when they're wanting to walk or take a step. We want to get enough repetition in the right kind of exercise to practice enough and hopefully create neuroplasticity so that they actually don't experience that symptom in the first place. What they see by looking at the body of research is that aerobic exercise may promote neural rearrangements and improve cognition in patients with Parkinson's, combining a goal-based motor cognitive practice. So that is training, balance, movement. Combining that with aerobic training seems to provide sustained clinical benefits rather than conventional physical therapy in patients with Parkinson's. So conventional therapy would be practicing balance, strength training, amplitude training, movement, agility, practicing a lot of skilled exercise within a session, but perhaps not doing very much aerobic exercise, maybe just doing a brief warm up at the beginning, but not having aerobic exercise be any period of sustained exercise. We may need more time of aerobic exercise to really get the most benefit out of the skilled training that we're doing. Neuroplastic changes probably drive the clinical rehabilitation-induced benefits in patients with Parkinson's. So if you are someone who has Parkinson's and has gone to therapy and didn't really feel like it was that helpful, it might be because you weren't doing enough aerobic exercise to experience the neuroplastic changes, where then the skills that you practice in therapy become more automatic and your brain is actually learning and changing in response to the exercise you're doing. When it comes to exercise, there is probably a minimum threshold of how many repetitions you need to do of something to really see a benefit. And it may be that you need to have different types of exercise combined to achieve the maximal benefit. And that's what they're looking at and seeing that having some aerobic exercise is probably necessary to have the skill, the training that you do really kind of stick in your brain. Future studies should identify optimal parameters of intensity, frequency, and duration of rehabilitation in patients with Parkinson's. So although we have lots of research, we don't have all the questions answered, and each person's probably a little bit different in terms of exactly how much you need to do, what you need to do. But in most cases, we need to do a little bit more, and we need to make sure that aerobic exercise is part of the plan whenever possible. I do have people that are doing endurance exercise, and they may not really be getting into aerobic zones, but they're still walking for 30 to 40 minutes regularly and elevating their heart rate, maybe not beyond a 60% threshold, but we do still see benefit from that too. So think, it's a whole spectrum of endurance, but maybe not aerobic, into aerobic and high intensity aerobic exercise. And in my experience, there is benefit to all of that. We do think that, skewing towards the higher intensity is better, but we also know that not every single person can do that. And so some form of endurance working towards the aerobic side of things is most likely going to be beneficial. I'm not going to go through all the details in this article, but it's a great read, very inspiring in terms of, what we need to do to really help people experience these changes. I love this figure that they have, the role of the basal ganglia, corticocerebellar networks in motor behavior, implications for rehabilitation. So the part of the brain that can be impacted by Parkinson's affects many things. So this is talking about parts of the brain, accumbens, putamen, caudatum, and where it's our limbic system. So emotional and motivation to reach a goal, actual motor control in the cerebellum, motor execution, the motor system, and the planning of actions that is more cognitive than physical. And all of that interacts together. So that's where Parkinson's is not just the movement symptoms. It is a whole coordinated system within our brain. And that's why, just getting moving doesn't solve all the problems. We do really want to incorporate cognitive challenges as well, new and different types of activities that really sparks our brain to respond to the exercise that we're doing. So more great review of lots of different studies that they're discussing. Aerobic exercise, the scientific rationale and clinical evidence. There is quite a bit out there, and then there is more even since this article was published. Integrating motor cognitive rehabilitation with aerobic exercise, open questions. So like I said, we don't have all the answers, but what they're really proposing is that, rehabilitation should be goal-based. We want to be able to achieve certain activities, improve balance, improve strength, be able to walk at a certain speed, to have a certain level of endurance. And, with balance, there are age norms and there are fall cutoffs. So we have goals in that we're working towards big picture. And then we also have specific tasks. Ideally when someone comes in, they have specific things that they want to work on and get better at. And it even could be something like getting dressed in the morning and doing that more easily and fluidly and efficiently. So we have goals that we're working on, and our exercise is goal-based. It matters what we, having specific goals and things that you want to be able to do better is very important. We are going to do both motor and cognitive exercises. And even if you're just doing something you think is motor, you're going through an obstacle course, that's not just motor. You are planning, how am I going to step over this obstacle and go between? And do I need to turn? And how am I going to adjust my speed? So really everything that we do motor-wise has a cognitive component to it as well, and vice versa. And the parts of our brain are all interacting together. There's a lot of research now that says that intensive is important. So the frequency of practice, how many repetitions we get, how hard we work within that session is important. But all of this work could be done really well within a session, and it may still not be aerobic. They're saying this might be the missing piece that is required to maximize the neuroplasticity. So whether the exercise that you do, you figure out how to make the goal-based and motor intensive exercise that you're doing, make it aerobic. We have a class called high intensity interval training where we're working on aerobic and skill-based exercises going back and forth. So we're trying to accomplish both. We have that very similar to class to that hi-fi here in person. So we're trying to work on skills and get our heart rate up at the same time to be the most efficient we possibly can be. But in some cases, it may be that those forms of exercise are separate. So maybe you're working on skills, balance, flexibility, mobility, strength, and it's not aerobic, but then you're also doing aerobic exercise, going for a walk, swimming, riding a stationary bike, a bike outside, walking on a treadmill, using an elliptical. There's lots of ways to fit in aerobic exercise. And so it's really just a matter of what is the best way for you. And then ideally, you are monitoring your heart rate while you're doing it to make sure that you're getting your heart rate up. You can monitor your heart rate while you're doing other forms of exercise to see, am I getting my heart rate up or not? And for what period of time? So I would say the good news is if you haven't felt like you've achieved as much benefit in the past with exercise, please consider, were you doing aerobic exercise on a regular basis? It probably does need to happen at least 30 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week to achieve this benefit. And then all the other work that you're doing to work on balance and flexibility and mobility and agility, you will probably get more benefit from the exercise you're doing and see more positive changes and improvements if you incorporate that aerobic exercise into your plan as well. So if you have any questions about this study, how to implement this, what's the right form of exercise for you to do, how to get in that aerobic exercise, definitely reach out to us. You can send us an email at info@roguept.com, or you can give us a call at 714-276-3992. We would love to chat with you. We have an in-person membership here in Orange County, California, and we also have an online membership, and we are working to implement this research into both our in-person and online classes and help coach people and work with them to figure out what's right for them, and, just be a resource. So let us know if we can be of any help. Feel free to check out this article. Or if just listening to or watching this video today inspired you to bump up that routine in terms of the aerobic exercise, that would make me very happy. I'll see you all next time.